The story of the United Kingdom is a truly remarkable one. It is a tale that stretches back thousands of years, filled with dramatic twists and turns. We see ancient peoples leaving their mysterious marks on the landscape. We witness waves of invasion and settlement, each group adding a new layer to the nation's identity. This island nation, often battered by the winds of the North Atlantic, would eventually build the largest empire the world has ever known. Its influence spread across the globe, shaping language, law and culture in countless places. Understanding this journey is not just about looking at the past, it is about understanding the world we live in today. The history of the UK is a story of incredible change and adaptation. From the Roman legions marching on newly built roads to the clatter of machinery in the first factories of the Industrial Revolution, this nation has constantly reinvented itself. It has been a stage for epic battles, political revolutions, and groundbreaking scientific discoveries. The very ideas of modern democracy and individual rights were debated and fought for on this soil. The journey from a collection of warring tribes to a unified kingdom, and then from a global empire to a modern multicultural society, is a complex and fascinating narrative that continues to unfold before our very eyes. Exploring this history helps us understand the UK of 2025. The decisions made centuries ago still echo in the halls of Parliament. The legacy of empire can be seen in the diverse faces on the streets of London, Manchester and Glasgow. The spirit of innovation that powered the Industrial Revolution now drives the country's tech and science sectors. By tracing this long and winding path, we can appreciate the deep foundations upon which modern Britain is built. It gives us context for the challenges it faces today and the opportunities that lie ahead in its future. This essay will guide you through that epic journey. We will start in the mists of prehistory and travel through the ages. We will meet Romans, Vikings and Normans. We will examine the great charters of liberty, the turmoil of civil war, and the rise and fall of a global empire. We will look at the Britain that emerged from the ashes of 2 world wars, a nation that built a pioneering welfare state. Finally, we will assess the UK in the 21st century, a modern, dynamic and complex country still grappling with its past and charting its course for the future. Our story begins long before written records in a time we call prehistory. Early humans walked these lands, leaving behind flint tools and the bones of the mammoths they hunted. The most iconic remnants of this era are the great stone circles like Stonehenge and Avebury, which still stand as silent, mysterious monuments on the landscape. These structures, built around 4,500 years ago, tell us about a sophisticated and organized society. They were astronomers, engineers and builders who had a deep connection to the seasons and the cosmos. Their purpose remains a subject of intense debate, but their existence shows that a complex culture thrived here long before the Romans arrived. The next major chapter began in AD 43, when the Roman Empire extended its reach to the island they called Britannia. For nearly 400 years, the Romans transformed the land. They built straight roads that still form the basis of many modern routes, and they established towns that grew into major cities like London or Londinium and York or Eboracum. They brought with them their laws, their language, Latin, and their architecture, including villas with intricate mosaics and public baths. Hadrian's Wall, a massive stone fortification stretching across the north of England, stands as a powerful symbol of the extent and limit of Roman power, a frontier against the unconquered tribes of Caledonia, which is modern Scotland. When the Roman legions withdrew in the early 5th century, Britain was left vulnerable. This led to a new wave of migration and invasion from northern Europe. Tribes known as the Angles, Saxons and Jutes arrived, pushing the native Britons to the west into what we now know as Wales and Cornwall. These newcomers established several powerful kingdoms such as Wessex, Mercia and Northumbria. They brought their own Germanic language, which would evolve into Old English, the foundation of the English language we speak today. This Anglo-Saxon period was an age of warrior kings, saints and scholars, a time when Christianity was re-established and great works of art like the Lindisfarne Gospels were created. The Anglo-Saxon era was itself disrupted by another fierce group of invaders, the Vikings. From the late 8th century, these seafaring warriors from Scandinavia raided monasteries and settlements along the coast. Soon their raids turned into full-scale invasion and settlement, particularly in the north and east of England, an area that became known as the Danelaw. The Vikings were not just raiders, they were also traders and farmers who left a lasting mark on the language, place names and legal systems. The struggle against the Vikings helped to unify the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms under leaders like Alfred the Great. This period of conflict ended dramatically in 1066 with the Norman conquest, when William the Conqueror from France defeated the English king at the Battle of Hastings, ushering in a new era of history. The Norman conquest of 1066 was a pivotal moment that reshaped England forever. William the Conqueror and his Norman lords imposed a new French-speaking ruling class and a feudal system that organized society around land ownership and military service. They were formidable builders, constructing imposing stone castles like the Tower of London and Windsor Castle to dominate the landscape and control the population. They also compiled the Domesday Book in 1086, a remarkably detailed survey of all the land and property in England. This incredible document gives us a unique snapshot of the country at the time and demonstrates the Normans' administrative power and their determination to cement their control over their new kingdom. Over the next few centuries, a key theme was the struggle for power between the king and his powerful nobles. This tension came to a head in 1215, when King John was forced by his barons to sign the Magna Carta, or Great Charter. This historic document was revolutionary for its time. It established for the first time that everyone, including the king, was subject to the law. It contained clauses that guaranteed the rights of individuals, the right to justice, and the right to a fair trial. Although many of its principles were ignored by kings for centuries, the Magna Carta became a powerful symbol of liberty and a foundational text for constitutional law, not just in Britain, but around the world. The medieval period was also marked by frequent and brutal warfare. The 100 Years' War, a long and exhausting conflict fought against France, saw famous English victories at battles like Crécy and Agincourt. Following this, England was plunged into a bloody civil war known as the Wars of the Roses. This was a dynastic struggle for the throne between two rival branches of the royal family, the House of Lancaster, represented by a red rose, and the House of York, represented by a white rose. The conflict finally ended in 1485 at the Battle of Bosworth Field, where Henry Tudor defeated Richard III, uniting the two houses and establishing the powerful Tudor dynasty. The Tudor period brought significant changes, most notably the English Reformation. King Henry VIII, desperate for a male heir and clashing with the Pope, broke away from the Roman Catholic Church to establish the Church of England with himself at its head. This religious upheaval had profound and long-lasting consequences, leading to the dissolution of the monasteries and changing the very fabric of religious and social life in the country. His daughter, Elizabeth I, later navigated a middle way in religion, but the tensions between Catholics and Protestants would continue to shape British politics and society for centuries to come, defining a new national identity. The centuries following the Tudors saw Britain's influence expand dramatically beyond its own shores. This was the beginning of the British Empire. Driven by a combination of trade, exploration and conquest, Britain established colonies in North America, the Caribbean and India. The Royal Navy grew to become the most powerful naval force in the world, protecting trade routes and projecting British power across the oceans. This imperial expansion brought immense wealth to Britain, fueled by commodities like sugar, tobacco and later cotton and tea. However, this wealth was built on a foundation of exploitation, including the horrific transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in the nation's history that has left a complex and painful legacy. At the same time as the empire was growing, a revolution of a different kind was transforming the country from within. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century, was a period of incredible technological innovation. Inventions like the steam engine, the spinning jenny, and new iron-making processes changed manufacturing forever. Britain became the workshop of the world, with factories and mills springing up in new industrial cities in the North and Midlands. This shift from an agricultural to an industrial economy led to massive social change, as millions of people moved from the countryside to cities in search of work, creating a new urban working class. The 19th century, often called the Victorian era after Queen Victoria, was the zenith of both the British Empire and its industrial power. At its peak, the empire covered about a quarter of the world's land area and ruled over a quarter of its population. The Great Exhibition of 1851 in London's Crystal Palace showcased Britain's industrial, military and economic superiority to the world. It was an age of immense confidence and progress, but also one of stark contrasts. While great fortunes were made and cities grew, many people lived in poverty and squalor, facing harsh working conditions, terrible housing and widespread disease. The 20th century brought challenges that would ultimately dismantle this global system. The First World War, from 1914 to 1918, was a devastating conflict that cost Britain dearly in terms of lives and wealth. While Britain and its empire emerged victorious, the country was weakened. The Second World War from 1939 to 1945 was an even greater struggle. Britain stood against Nazi Germany, famously during the Battle of Britain. But the economic cost of the war was immense. By 1945, the country was bankrupt, and the age of empire was drawing to a close. The global balance of power had shifted, and Britain's role in the world was about to change forever. After the devastation of the Second World War, Britain faced the enormous task of rebuilding. The country was exhausted and heavily in debt, but there was a powerful desire to build a better, fairer society for all. The landslide election victory of the Labour Party in 1945 ushered in a period of radical social reform. The government nationalised key industries like coal, railways and steel, bringing them under public control. The most significant and enduring creation of this era was the National Health Service, established in 1948. This revolutionary system provided free healthcare for everyone based on need, not the ability to pay, and it remains a cherished institution in British life. Alongside domestic reconstruction, Britain's global role was undergoing a profound transformation. The economic strain of the war, combined with growing nationalist movements in the colonies, made the empire unsustainable. The process of decolonization began with the independence of India and Pakistan in 1947. Over the next 2 decades, most of Britain's former colonies in Africa, the Caribbean and Asia gained their independence. To maintain a connection with these newly independent nations, the Commonwealth of Nations was formed. This was a voluntary association of states, most with historic links to Britain, designed to foster cooperation and friendship in a post-imperial world. The end of empire also had a major impact on the makeup of British society itself. To help rebuild the country and fill labour shortages, people from Commonwealth countries were invited to come and work in Britain. The arrival of the HMT Empire Windrush in 1948, carrying hundreds of passengers from the Caribbean, is a symbolic moment in this story. This wave of post-war immigration, along with later arrivals from South Asia and other parts of the world, began to transform Britain into the multicultural and diverse society it is today. These new communities brought fresh perspectives, cultures and traditions, enriching British life, but also creating new social challenges. This period of great change was not always smooth. The country faced significant economic challenges, including industrial decline and high inflation in the 1970s. There were social tensions as the country adjusted to its new identity and diverse population. Britain's position in the world was also redefined. No longer a superpower, it had to find a new role. A key part of this was joining the European Economic Community, later the European Union, in 1973. This decision marked a shift in focus from the old empire towards a new partnership with its European neighbours, a relationship that would shape British politics for the next 50 years. Today, the United Kingdom is, well, a complex and dynamic nation of around 67 million people. It is a parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy, meaning it has a monarch, King Charles III, as head of state, but political power rests with the elected parliament. The government is led by the Prime Minister, who is the head of the largest party in the House of Commons. The UK is also a union of 4 distinct countries: England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Each has its own unique culture and identity, and, in the cases of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, its own devolved government with powers over areas like health and education. The UK's economy is, one of the largest in the world. It has shifted significantly from its industrial past to become a service-based economy. The financial services sector, centred in the City of London, is a global powerhouse. Other key industries include aerospace engineering, pharmaceuticals, creative industries like film and music, and a rapidly growing technology sector. The UK is home to some of the world's top universities, such as Oxford and Cambridge, which are at the forefront of scientific research and innovation. This makes the country a leader in fields ranging from artificial intelligence and genetics to renewable energy technology, continuing a long tradition of scientific discovery. Modern British society is defined by its multiculturalism. The legacy of empire and post-war migration has created a rich tapestry of cultures, languages and faiths. Cities like London, Birmingham and Manchester are incredibly diverse, with communities from all over the world living side by side. This diversity is reflected in the nation's food, music, art and festivals. While this multiculturalism is a source of great strength and vibrancy, it has also presented challenges related to integration, identity, and ensuring equal opportunities for everyone. The question of what it means to be British in the 21st century is a topic of ongoing conversation and debate. Healthcare and education remain central pillars of the nation. The National Health Service, or NHS, continues to provide comprehensive medical care to all residents, although it faces constant pressure from rising demand and funding challenges. The education system offers free schooling for all children up to the age of 18, with a world-renowned university sector. The UK also has a deep appreciation for its natural environment, with a network of national parks protecting areas of outstanding natural beauty, from the Scottish Highlands to the coast of Cornwall. However, like all nations, it faces the urgent challenge of protecting this environment from the impacts of climate change. One of the most significant challenges facing the UK in recent years has been the fallout from its decision to leave the European Union. The 2016 referendum on Brexit was a deeply divisive event that exposed profound disagreements about the country's identity, sovereignty and place in the world. The process of leaving the EU has created new trade barriers with the UK's closest neighbours, impacting businesses and the economy. It has also reignited debates about the future of the Union itself, particularly in Scotland, where a majority voted to remain in the EU, and in Northern Ireland, where new trade arrangements have created political and economic complications. The UK is also grappling with a severe housing crisis. For many people, especially the young, the dream of owning a home is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve. House prices, particularly in London and the South East, have risen much faster than wages, and the cost of renting is also extremely high. There is a significant shortage of affordable and social housing, leading to problems of overcrowding, homelessness, and growing inequality between those who own property and those who do not. This issue puts a strain on family life, limits social mobility, and is a major source of political and social discontent across the country. Like the rest of the world, the UK faces the urgent and existential threat of climate change. The government has set ambitious targets to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050, but meeting these goals presents a huge challenge. It requires a massive transition away from fossil fuels towards renewable energy sources like wind and solar power. It also means changing how people travel, heat their homes, and produce their food. Extreme weather events such as heat waves and floods are becoming more common, highlighting the vulnerability of the country's infrastructure and the need for significant investment in climate adaptation to protect communities in the future. Underlying many of these issues is the persistent problem of inequality. There are significant disparities in wealth, health and opportunity between different regions of the country, often described as the North-South divide. People in more deprived areas tend to have lower life expectancy, poorer educational outcomes and fewer job prospects. The gap between the richest and the poorest in society has widened in recent decades. Addressing this deep-rooted inequality and levelling up opportunities across the entire UK is one of the most complex and important challenges for any government, essential for creating a more stable and prosperous society for all. Looking ahead, technology will undoubtedly be a major force shaping the UK's future. The country is already a leader in fields like artificial intelligence, fintech and life sciences. The continued development of AI could transform industries from healthcare, with AI-powered diagnostics, to finance and transport. This technological revolution offers the potential for huge economic growth and improvements in everyday life. However, it also brings challenges, such as the need to manage the impact of automation on jobs, ensure data privacy, and address the ethical questions that new technologies like AI and genetic engineering will inevitably raise for society. The transition to a green economy represents another huge area of change and opportunity. Meeting the UK's net zero climate targets will require a massive national effort and huge investment in new industries. This could create hundreds of thousands of new jobs in sectors like renewable energy generation, electric vehicle manufacturing, home insulation and carbon capture technology. This green industrial revolution has the potential not only to tackle climate change, but also to help rebalance the UK economy, bringing investment and skilled jobs to industrial heartlands that have suffered from decline, offering a path to a more sustainable and equitable future. The political landscape of the UK is likely to remain dynamic and potentially turbulent. The long-term consequences of Brexit will continue to unfold, shaping the country's trade relationships and its role on the global stage. The question of the Union's future will also persist. The debate over Scottish independence remains a central feature of Scottish politics, and its outcome could fundamentally reshape the United Kingdom. How the UK navigates these complex constitutional questions and forges a new, stable identity for itself in a rapidly changing world will be a defining challenge for the coming decades. The future will also be shaped by the next generation. Today's young people in the UK are more diverse, digitally native, and socially conscious than any generation before them. They are passionate about issues like climate change, social justice, and mental health. Their values and priorities will increasingly influence politics, culture and the workplace. As this generation moves into positions of leadership, they will bring new ideas and perspectives. Their creativity, activism and demand for a more inclusive and sustainable society will be a powerful engine of change, driving the next chapter in the UK's long and ever-evolving story. The journey of the United Kingdom is a powerful testament to the idea of constant change. From the ancient Britons who built Stonehenge to the tech innovators of 2025, the story of these islands has been one of continual adaptation, conflict and reinvention. We have seen how successive waves of people, Romans, Anglo-Saxons, Vikings and Normans, each left their indelible mark, contributing to the rich and complex layers of British identity. We have followed the nation's path from a collection of warring kingdoms to a unified state that forged a path of parliamentary democracy and individual rights, ideas that would resonate across the globe. The rise and fall of the British Empire marked a period of immense global power and influence. But its legacy is double-edged, bringing both progress and profound exploitation. The industrial might that once made Britain the workshop of the world has given way to a modern, service-led economy at the forefront of science and technology. The Britain that emerged from the ashes of 2 world wars was a nation determined to build a fairer society, creating the NHS and the welfare state. It transformed from a colonial power into a diverse, multicultural nation, a change that continues to shape its social fabric in the 21st century. Today, the UK stands at another crossroads, facing a unique set of contemporary challenges. The aftershocks of Brexit, the urgent need to address the climate crisis, the deep-seated problems of housing and inequality, and the ongoing questions about the very structure of the Union itself, all demand bold solutions and a clear vision for the future. The nation is once again in a period of re-evaluation, debating its identity, its priorities, and its place in a world that looks very different from the one it once dominated. It is a moment of uncertainty, but also one of opportunity. What is clear from this long history is that the UK's story is far from over. Its future will be defined by how it confronts these challenges. It will depend on its ability to harness the power of new technologies for the common good, to transition to a sustainable green economy, and to heal the social and political divisions that have marked recent years. The ultimate test will be whether it can build a future that offers opportunity and security for all its citizens in every part of the country. The one constant in Britain's history has been its capacity to adapt and change, and this quality will be more vital than ever as it writes the next chapter of its remarkable story.